So we good to go? Good morning, everyone. Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Director of Design Swiggy and an IIT Madras alumnus with us, Mr. Saptrishi Prakash. Hello, sir. Welcome to our podcast.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And welcome to IIT Roorkee E-Summit. And you brought such a lovely weather with you, sir.
Did I bring it?
Yeah, you definitely did. Because we weren't expecting such a nice, soothing weather this morning.
Okay.
So let's just, because we have time constraint, let's just get started with it. So I would like to ask you the most important question, because जब हम first year में आए and we explored different fields,
Right.
So design was one of them. But we never really got to know design होता क्या है. So like from your perspective, now you have been working in the industry for a while. अगर आपको ऐसे ऑक्सफोर्ड में डिजाइनिंग को एक ऐसा डेफिनेशन देना पड़े, so what would you like to give it?
Definition. Yeah, tough question पूछ दिया तुमने. See, I would say, design ka more than defining, I would rather try to remove some of the misconceptions that are there around design. Common people usually end up thinking that it's about making things look good, which is also a part of it, but there are larger things to it. What people don't realize that almost all of us are designers in a way, whether, you're professionally doing it or not, because at the end of the day, you're designing your lives. When you know that you need to record a podcast at 10 in the morning,
Yes.
you know that you'll at least have to get up at 8 o'clock, have your breakfast, do your shower, dress up and everything, so that you make it here by 9:45 or something. So that's essentially you planned, you strategized, you in a way designed your life, right? The way you keep your stuff, the way you arrange your table, everything is designing, which people don't realize. The moment they start realizing it, it'll not be seen as, a profession or a discipline which is very, very different, which needs a definition. It doesn't, right? Once that part is clear and established, I think it all narrows down to about understanding people. Design में बहुत अलग कुछ समझने का होता है नहीं. It's about understanding people. What do they want? Why would they want to buy something, do something, eat something, taste something, whatever, right? Their fears, their aspirations, what they like, what they dislike. It narrows down to that and not necessarily about what design is.
It's not just about making things look good, but rather making it appealing for the people.
It's all about people, trust me.
That was a really nice answer. I finally got to understand now what design
You
is.
did? Okay.
But when I came to campus, I got to I saw people designing T-shirts and posters initially.
That's how even I started.
Yes. And but initially when I dived deeper into the field to know more, I found these terminologies called UI UX, graphic design, motion design. So can you please elaborate on this key? How many types of designing are there, and what is the exact scope of design? How vast it is?
See, it is just like saying, what if I say fashion design? I think that's more understandable to people, right? Now I can say fashion design as a branch, or I can go and say that shirt design, t-shirt design, sweater design, trousers design, sock design, shoe design, and all, right? So you can break all these things down into as many things as you want. You can have a watch strap design, you can have a button designer, and so many other things. It's very similar, right? So that's why you would see more and more companies are referring to it as product design these days, even though it's in a digital sense, right? You're building digital, you're designing digital products. Of course, the product needs to work for the users. For that, you will have to look into visuals. For that, you may have to think about animations, motion. You may have to think about copywriting. You may have to think about tons of other things. So it's all about, how you choose to split them up, right? Overall, I would still say, you are designing some product which has some experience, which a human is going to use. So anything that comes within can potentially be a field of design.
So it is not just restricted to some lucrative names.
Right.
So it is a very...
And again, you used a term called UI UX design.
Yeah.
I feel that's kind of redundant because UI is a subset of UX.
Subset of UX,
right?
exactly.
So agar aap UI UX keh rahe ho, it's equivalent to saying patty burger, right? You just say, I want a burger. You don't say, I want a patty burger, right? So it's something like that.
That was nice to hear. From your post and social media content, I found out that you are a product designer.
Right.
And you just talked about product design.
Right.
So what really goes behind the product design, like designing a product, and what all responsibility does the product designer have to take? और एक प्रोडक्ट के लॉन्च पे इस पे क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन का?
देखो, प्रोडक्ट डिजाइन इज नथिंग बट you are building the end experience which your user would use, right? It's the first level of interaction that anyone is having with any kind of product. For example, if this is a salt dispenser, किसी ने सोचा होगा, this part needs to be bigger because there has to be a salt tank. It needs to hold some amount of salt. And it also gives you some good grip because, you can then shake it properly. But it needs to have some opening at the top so that it comes out properly. The openings cannot be very big because otherwise ज़्यादा नमक गिर जाएगा. बहुत छोटा होने से आपको बहुत हिलाना पड़ेगा, right? So there is someone who had actually thought about all of them and then finally designed this one, right? So that's what product designers do. Now I've given the example of a physical state. In digital, it's very similar. You're building a music app, a fintech app, or an e-commerce app. We need to think from the shoes of the user. Why did they come here? What do they want? What do they not want? How can we influence them into buying something? Or how can we influence them into listening something or transacting something and so on? So all those thinking is what a product designer is expected to do. And of course, there can be many, many different situations. Like one, we can talk about if you want to go to Flipkart, buy a t-shirt and check out, the happy flow is you go, find a t-shirt, you add it to your cart, you make a payment, and then you're happy. That's just the happy flow. There can be many, 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 many other edge cases, unhappy flows, ugly flows, bad flows, which the user will go through.
Definitely.
Right? You're not finding something failing right there, something size not available. So they're all in all those situations, how do you still make the journey of the user meaningful is what a product designer is expected to think and build. Right? And anything around that, when you said, what do they own up? What are the responsibilities? Anything that is around that, for example, say certain flow is breaking, if the user does this, here they come to an end state and they do not know what to do. Or this part feels so confusing that they do not know what they need to do to go to the next step or whatever. Those are the places where product designers own up. They're held responsible that why is it like this?
There must be stages to this responsibility. Like when an initial product is launching, तो पहले एक particular segment of market में launch होता होगा. Then based on the reviews, you redesign the product and rebrand it, and you launch it again. Is it like that?
Yes. There's always an iterative process. There is one stage of things which happens before releasing itself. आप prototypes वगैरह लेके you try and test with some users and all to get their first-hand understanding. Right? Even before that, even before designing anything, if you're just trying to understand who are you building it for, do they even need what you think they need? Right? For that, you have many conversations with them where you understand about their lives and all. So after all these exercises, yes, towards the release, as you have said, we do release it to certain cohorts of people. Now it depends on what we have made, what kind of company you are. If you ask about in Swiggy, we usually launch it to 1% of the users, to 1% of our overall users, so that even if something terribly goes wrong, it's in a controlled environment and we can perhaps rectify it. So we see the responses for those 1% users, and eventually we make it 5%, 20, 50, 100 and so on. And eventually it becomes like generally available, which is like, it's live to 100% users is what we call. So that's one way of doing. The other way, of course, is, if we also do A/B testing. I'm sure you might have heard about where, two divergent options are shown to two or released to two different small cohorts of users. Maybe one person ko ye dikha, dusre one person ko wo dikha. And then there is remaining 98% who's using the normal one, whichever. Then we compare, which of these are working better, kahan pe conversion zyada ho raha hai, kahan pe drop offs zyada ho rahe, kam ho rahe, and based on that we decide what is that ultimate thing which we will make live. You'll be surprised at any point of time, at least in Swiggy, there are hundreds of experiments going on. It could be a simple change in copy to a simple change in maybe visuals or a different flow altogether.
And it impacts the user so much.
Yeah, it does. And it teaches us so many different things. Yes. At times we are just, it baffles me how a small change in maybe size, position or color can have so huge impact, especially at the scale at which we operate.
Definitely. So now moving from designing as a technical thing, there's a very famous quote which I found on your LinkedIn bio, never judge a book by its cover.
No, my thing is I judge a book by its cover.
There was a spin-off of it, and
right.
How much do you agree to this?
Totally. This is very true. I feel people just don't admit to it.
Yeah, definitely.
See, there's a word called judgmental, right?
Yeah.
They say, hey, are you judgmental? You shouldn't be judgmental. But the truth is, when we say you shouldn't be judgmental, you shouldn't act or say anything which is judgmental. Honestly speaking, the moment you see something, you start judging that person in your head, which is okay. The moment I stepped in, you would have definitely seen me and started judging. Okay, this guy maybe this, that, or it might be serious, boring, whatever, right? It happens to each and all of us.
Definitely.
So I think as long as it's in your head, you're using that judgment to analyze something and make some meaningful conversation, it's perfect. Right? That's what is judging a book by its cover. We all do.
From a design perspective, it fits in very well. It's a clever use.
And there are psychological reasons behind it. There's something called aesthetic usability effect, which means that if something looks good, even if it is not perfectly great or easy in using, you will still perceive or call it as a very nice, usable, well-designed thing just because it looks good. And many people say that Apple products are an example of that.
The aesthetics of
There are so many flaws in that, but then people always don't talk about them, or they say that, no, that's not a bug, that's a feature, that's how it's supposed to be, just because it looks good. So people say. I'm not claiming that. I love Apple products.
We all do.
Right.
So you did your engineering, electrical engineering from IIT Madras.
Right.
And initially, when we come to college, हमें पता नहीं होता design as a field के बारे में. All we know is software है.
Right.
There's something called finance and इसी के बीच we dwell. So how did you came across designing field, and engineering point of view से design में transition कितना difficult था for you?
Right. Actually, I started designing not in college. Actually, before that,
Yeah.
when I was in school,
You got a computer.
Yeah, I got a computer, and I think you know the story, right?
Yeah.
I started designing and stuff. So I knew a bit about designing, but that was just graphic design. What college did was it gave me a lot of resources. We used to have local area network back then. Do you have it?
Yeah,
LAN?
we do
right?
LAN.
Everything in the
Everything
world
is
is available out there,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So by the way, it's banned in some in IIT Madras. It's not there anymore. So anyway, there were lots of resources on LAN which I could use to learn and brush up the skills that I already had. And there were also many seniors who were just like me, who were designing, who were great at making a poster, who were great at graphic design, who were great at animations and all. So I had the opportunity to speak to them and learn from them, right? But anyways, at all of them, at that point of time, and I'm talking about, I graduated in 2014, right? So I'm talking, of course, the 5 years before that. I was in integrated courses when I was in college. Smartphones weren't as popular. I saw Android coming into the market. I entered IIT with a Symbian and Nokia phone, which was good phone, right? And then by the time I graduated, I had an Android phone. So we have seen that Android revolution. So it's phones which actually brought, UX design, product design and all popular. So back then it wasn't. So I never thought of taking it up as a career because I thought it wouldn't pay me well because design was, it always felt like it would be that DTP guy who sits in that printing shop who quickly, designs something and just prints out. You don't want to be that after having an IIT degree, right? So I never thought of taking it as a career. But then one thing led to another. I got an opportunity to work at a startup, of course. Housing.com. That was 1 year after me graduating. Coming to the question that you said, right? How difficult was it to transition? Not much, I would say, at least not much. What I realized, since graphic design was my hobby, college mein main bhi t-shirt poster वगैरह बनाता था, I was decently good at the tools, right? Or how a design tool works, what you need to do, how do you create this and all. And also I had a decent sense of aesthetics. क्योंकि आपको poster वगैरह बनाने में, you need to understand, it needs to look good for it to be catchy so that people go and read, okay, ये event हो रहा है, let me go register and stuff. That was one. And the second thing was purely the logical decision making and brainstorming that you do in your head. Like user यहाँ आएगा तो उसको क्या दिखेगा, इसके आगे वहां जाएगा तो वो कंफ्यूज हो जाएगा, अगर वो ये करना चाहे इस स्टेप से तो कैसे करेगा. That is nothing but the thinking that you do in your head, which of course, being an engineer, I would probably be a smart guy, so I was expected to know. So at the end I felt it was just marrying these two things, right? That the analytical skills which I probably naturally had as an engineer, and these some of these aesthetics and visual skills which I gathered because graphic design was my hobby. It was just about marrying both of them, I felt. So it was not as tough as it may sound like.
These days, even we have a Masters in Design course in IIT Roorkee from 2021, I guess. Do you think if you went to a design school and your experience at IIT Madras, what would have been better? Did your experience at IIT Madras help you grow in this field more than going to a design school would have helped?
See, I don't know what would have happened if I had gone to a design school. Some things I can think about, there wasn't, I didn't know any theory when I started. I still don't know a lot of theory, but there are a lot of things that I do from fundamentals, right? I start doing because it feels right to me, right? I think from, what is that? First principles.
It's a very unorthodox
Nobody ever taught me any of these things. And I've been, I figured out my process over the years that this is how you should think, this is how you should do. And then over and above, when I keep talking to people who have the theoretical knowledge, I discover this terminologies. And I was like, hey, what is that? Could you tell me what that is? And then they would explain that to me. Then I would realize that, hey, this is something that I always do. I just didn't know the name, right? So there was a phase of self-understanding and self-realization, which led me build some of my processes. If I had gone to a design school, maybe I didn't have to do a lot of trial and error. But I would also like to believe that that process taught me a lot. The second part you said, IIT Madras, I think given a chance to go back, I would again go to IIT Madras, not just because of design skills or anything, because any place like any IIT, it teaches you life skills.
Yeah, definitely.
I think today, if I'm called a good problem solver, it's because I solved some real life problems in IIT. It's not something that happened in the classroom. It could be simple life things. You know, वहाँ पे मेरा एक class हो रहा है, अगर मैं नहीं गया तो मुझे W grade लग जाएगा because of attendance. And वहाँ पे there's a course, card block में मुझे जाके कुछ और register कराना. If I don't do today is the last day, it's your choice. How do you manage both of them in the same slot? You know, it's not, the college wouldn't say कि okay, बच्चे को दोनों जगह जाना है, let us reschedule. No, they'll not do that. It's like a real life. You'll have to figure out. Then you'll use your jugaad, right? Okay, should I send a friend for a proxy, or should I do something like this? Should I write a letter to the dean? Should I go and make a special request? All these are life skills. These are problem-solving skills which I use today. Even today, when I'm working with my team or when I'm in a meeting room negotiating with other stakeholders and all these skills come into the picture.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Like it makes you aware of the tough situation and how to deal with it.
Yes.
Post 2015 and 16, designing became a major part of as a profession. उसे बहुत लोग pursue करने लगे because of the startup boom.
Right.
And you graduated in 2014.
Yes.
So you have been in this industry for a while.
Right.
How have you seen like कैसे change हुई है industry, and now you go back to different IITs, even IIT Madras. So how has you मतलब students का perception कैसे change हुआ है designing को as a career सोचने के
Oh,
बाद?
a lot. Previously, no one would speak much about it. अभी बहुत हो रहा है. The fact that you have SDS labs and design studios and all for a very long time, even before you had a department of design, I believe, right? That itself shows that you understand the value, right? This wasn't the case back in 2015. People wouldn't know what a profession of design is. They would think about fashion designing or graphic designing or some pamphlet design and all. They wouldn't know that there's a lot of effort that goes into designing that app or that website that you use inside your digital devices, right? That awareness is much, much better now. And the second reason why I feel, you said the boom, right? Because of startup, there was a second reason why design became very popular was design is probably the only other field, one of the very few fields, which pays you as much as a software engineer without you needing to have a right to code, without you needing to write code, right? People are scared of coding is what I realized. When I go to college, everyone says, I don't like to code. I'm not good at coding. But they do it regardless because they feel that that's the only way of earning good money. But design became a very nice proxy where you don't have to write code and yet you can make similar bucks. So that was another reason why it became popular. So one stark difference that I see is in 2015, when I graduated, it was just about people who are really passionate or really want to do and all. Today, there are a lot of people who are passionate as well, but then there are a lot of also other people who see it as a lucrative career path. That's why they are here. In 2015, it wasn't really lucrative. Today, it is. That's the major difference that I see.
So you have worked with housing.com as a designer for almost a year. And in one of your videos, I heard that initially you were not able to perform well during the project.
Yes.
So how did you meet the expectations? Because as a student, जो यहाँ से pass out करते हैं, there are expectations for the company कि हाँ, they are an IIT graduate, they will perform certain tasks very well. So how did you manage that pressure?
Right. See, that IIT pressure wasn't there at housing. The IIT pressure was there in my first job where I was a project manager.
Oracle.
Not Oracle. Yeah, it is now Oracle.
Oracle,
Cerner was the company. It got acquired by Oracle and all, right? So there, you wouldn't see a lot of IITians. So when they see IITians, they start looking at you like, a blue breed. This person is going to come and do some magical wonders. But okay, my team was good. It's not that they had some unreasonable demands for me. In housing, that thing wasn't there because everyone was an IITian there.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Almost every. I wouldn't be surprised if 60 to 70% people were from IIT, right? Not just designers, but even developers, everyone, right? So that thing was nothing. You're again back to college sort of thing. It was the pressure of performing amongst some of the best people in India at that point of time. If you see 2015, I think you were probably very young back then, 9 years back, right? Housing was actually the company that redefined design in India, I would say. They are the ones who started paying designers as much as a developer or a product manager. They are the ones who started, giving them the respect that they deserved. Previously, it was just about designing would be some team who would be there. Other people will tell them what to do and they would just use the tool. They were a pair of hands essentially. Housing is the company which changed it, right? So that way, all the good people, they somehow attracted them by paying them a lot of money or whatever. So all the good people in design were at housing.com. And I was a kid out of college. That pressure of performance was a bit there. No one put that pressure on you, but you naturally feel that, hey, everyone is so damn good. Everyone is like creating wonders. They're getting applauded left, right, center, and every other place. What the hell am I doing? So yeah, my first project, as you might have seen on my video, wasn't very good. I know I made some very obvious and stupid mistakes. I didn't think about so many different dimensions that I should, or what I do today. So I missed out many important use cases. And when I was asked, okay, what will happen if someone does this, that, and then tries to do that? I wouldn't have an answer, right? Because I haven't thought about that. So yeah, after that, it is just about, opening my mind up. I started thinking how other people think. I started observing that when this question is put up, how is Adit responding to it? How is Harshil responding to it? How is Kshitij responding to it? They're all my colleagues, by the way, right? And then I started hearing, okay, this is how they think. This is one dimension that I haven't even considered about. And in addition to that, I started going into their files and all. Yeah, it just helped. I think that exercise, I did it for some good 2-3 months, I guess. I still do, but that was like a very extensive phase after that bad feedback. That really helped me. That taught me how to think. That taught me what are some of the standards, right? Yeah.
Like, I think in designing, a second person or third person perspective is very important.
Absolutely.
Yesterday night, I was walking around the campus with one of my friends, and I told him that tomorrow, I might have a podcast with Saptrishi. So he knew you, he's a designer, and he was like, I've been following him for a while. And did you know that when he applied to Swiggy for the first time, he didn't hear back from them. And today he is the director of design at Swiggy. So
Right.
do ask him that what's the story behind it, how did he overcame that thing? कि हाँ स्विगी ने घोस्ट कर दिया today I'm the director of design.
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. I was bad. They had every reason to ghost me. So it was right after this housing का bad feedback phase, right? I was preparing, but then when you show it in a movie, you know that बंदे ने बहुत तोड़ू मेहनत किया फिर एकदम ऐसा हो गया. But then when you're doing it, you don't know, is it going to work? Am I doing it right? That uncertainty are always there, right? And then you are also hearing news about housing would do a big layoff. So I thought that खराब feedback आया, layoff होने वाला, मैं तो पक्का जा रहा हूँ, right? And the company before that, Oracle Cerner, there, unless you go slap your manager, they will never fire you. It's that kind of a company. Right? Slow paced company, MNCs जैसे होते हैं. I was like, what have I done with my career? So that was the phase when I started applying to few other companies. I mean, passively in a way. My flatmate in Bombay used to be was at housing. So it's same 2015, the year Swiggy was formed. So I told him that, hey, sir, okay, I'll float your portfolio or resume or whatever, right? He did, and I got a call from Swiggy. They said that, okay, this is an exercise, do it. I think it was a very vague thing. They said, okay, look at our iOS app, suggest improvements. I think that was the exercise that they had given me. I made something and I sent it to them. They never got back. I know I did a horrible job. When I look back at that assignment, it's still somewhere in my email, right? I didn't do anything essentially. I didn't think in the direction. I made some visual changes and all. Maybe button ko ye kara diya, isko bahar le aaya and all. I did all those stuff. Of course, that's not going to get you job. So yeah, that happened. They had every reason to ghost me.
Now you are the head of design.
I'm not the head of design. Like, I have my parts to head. I head the food and the storefront and a couple of other things. I report to the VP of design, who is actually the head of design. Yeah.
So as the next two VP to design,
okay, all right.
Like, did you went to the company and found out कि मेरे को reply किसने नहीं दिया?
No, it was too old. Say 2015, most of these people were not there in the company, right? My manager wasn't there. There was only one designer who also quit now. He was the first designer at Swiggy. He perhaps was there. So I actually asked him, hey, did you see my portfolio? Even he doesn't remember, right? so anyways, that was a funny phase, it's a nice thing to share in a podcast like this. But yeah, it did happen. But the interesting thing is, I didn't have to apply to Swiggy again. So now that I work out here, I was approached by the company, and it was a very different kind of interview process where I was invited to a coffee shop. We spoke over coffee. It was not just tell me what have you got. It was about that as well, but it was also about, look, here's what we have got for you. So it was a very mutual understanding sort of interview experience that I had at Swiggy. So I would like to say, yes, I applied to Swiggy in 2015, but I got in at 2018. That's a better way to put it.
It's one of a very fulfilling story that I've heard in a while.
Thank you.
While researching about you, I saw a Quora account,
okay,
which had very great advices apart from designing, relationship advice, how to plan a romantic dinner advice.
I was a kid back then. I had written a lot of. Okay, yeah, sorry, go on.
It's all right, we all do. Do you feel at this point you have reached a threshold where you are like in a stagnant phase, or is the desire to grow, is the hunger to grow more is even there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my hunger to grow is always there, will always be there, right? So people these days talk about, some people ask me, why do you still work? Because I made a decent amount of money from content creation and stuff as well, right? Why do you still work? I don't work for money alone. I work because I really like to do it. Today, even if I become a billionaire or a millionaire, I'll still continue doing it. I'll not be the person who will just take a leave and just go off to Bahamas and chill out there, right? I'll do it for some time, but then I will get bored of it. I'll have to come and start doing it, right? So yes, my hunger for growth is always there. I keep asking hard questions to my managers and people, hey, what's happening to my career and stuff, right? I keep doing all of them, just like anyone else would do. I'm as worried. I don't think there is any upper limit. I'm nowhere close to that upper limit. I have a lot to do. I have a lot to achieve.
Recently I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this reel where one said that they never knew the project they were starting. So they were saying that the skills that you acquire during a project, वो पहले से उन्हें नहीं आती, वो project के दौरान सीखते हैं. How much of this is true? Like the project will teach you the skill rather than you gather the skill and then start a project?
You should not rely on that. Yes, the project teaches you a lot of things, but don't go with the expectation that I don't know this, but the project will teach me, right? See, jumping into a work is fine, but from a job seeker perspective, I won't recommend that. Project ends up teaching you a lot of other things which are not necessarily design hard skills. A young designer may end up learning a lot about how you make money in a food business by working on a project, or how does the supply chain ecosystem work on the ground. You may end up learning a lot about them, right? But yeah, and some amount of design as well. I know some designers who learn to prototype as a part of a project. And it's not that, the project end hua tab main seekh gaya. No, it was like, hey, you need to create a prototype, but I don't know how to do it. Okay, spend the night, figure it out. Next morning they come and they know it.
It's like a live learning
process.
Yeah,
it's a live learning process. And then you come, and of course, when you start making the prototype, it's not that you are perfect at the beginning. You make mistakes, you learn from people around you, but then you learn 70 to 80% of it. Yeah.
Now, with the last question that I have, what advice do you have for the designers that are coming in this field, and how difficult is for you to manage your personal life, the social media content, and now a full-time job also?
Okay, there are two questions here, right? Let me take the first one. Advice, right? Let me give you a couple of advices. First of all, always focus on fundamentals. Whether you have a design education, you don't have a design education, always approach things from the fundamentals, from the first principles, because the moment you go to an industry, there's no textbook. You will feel that, hey, main to har time jugaad use kar raha hu. Yes, that's how your industry would be, which is nothing but you're still using your skills that you have learned, the theory that you have learned, but it's your first principles which come into the picture. Just like IIT JEE exam.
Yeah,
you apply formula, you can not crack a single question. So it's like that. That's one. Second thing is, be ready to unlearn. You would learn, you've learned a lot of things in your life. You will learn many other new things in your life. You will see a lot of your past learnings getting challenged as well. Be open to that. Be ready to unlearn. Third thing I would say is, don't try to be a specialist too early in life. You can't be a specialist just like that. Don't start calling yourself that, hey, I am, a user research specialist. Sure, you could do that over time, but I don't suggest you do. Over time, you'll naturally see one skill of yours as spiking, and you don't have to announce that. People around you will start knowing you for that. That's when probably you naturally become a specialist. But get into every aspect of design. Don't try to just remain within one speciality. Yeah, I think those are the three advice. How do I balance? I mostly create content on the weekends. So this week I'm in IIT Roorkee, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
I think you already got one.
I got one, so probably you'll get some good shots out of it, right? I'll count on you on that. So, but on a serious note, I have a team. I have a team that helps me. So yeah, they help me in ideating, they help me in scripting, they help me in editing, they help me in posting also. So yes, there's a lot of headache that is taken off me. That's a good part, but yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir. I hope you have a lovely time at IIT Roorkee E-Summit this year.
Thank you. It was lovely being here, and thanks for making me a part of this podcast, which was very, very impromptu. I hope you got some good answers to the questions you were looking for.
Definitely, sir. We all had a great learning experience.
Thank you. See you around.